Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, co-hosted by the Water Finance Coalition and the Nature Conservancy on leveraging financial strategies to support nature-based solutions for water security. I'm Laurent Raspo. I'm a team leader at the Water and Sanitation Division at the French Development Agency. And without further ado, I will give the floor to our two co-hosts to give opening remarks. Lionel Goujon, head of the Water and Sanitation Division at the French Development Agency and co-chair of the Water Finance Coalition, and then Naomi Noël, Senior Partnership Associate for Water and Resilience at the Nature Conservancy. Lionel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Laurent, and welcome everyone to this first webinar co-organized by the Water Finance Coalition and the Nature Conservancy. We are really delighted to see so many of you here today. We had over 300 registrations, so I hope most of you will actually be able to join, and we are also recording this event for those willing to see it later on. I see this number of participants as a testament to the growing interest in innovative solutions to address water scarcity, rising pollution, and the impact of climate change. Today, the Water Finance Coalition is actually launching a new webinar format with the aim of broadening its audience to include everyone interested in nature-based solution, NBS, as we say, and their crucial role to water management. For those of you unfamiliar with the Water Finance Coalition, it is a group of public development banks established in 2020 to help these institutions reach their full potential in financing the water sector and contribute to achieving SDG 6 on clean water and sanitation for all. The coalition today includes about 60 members and acts as a community of practice, fostering knowledge sharing and providing tailored technical assistance to individual PDBs, with a particular focus on supporting national public development banks, as we are convinced that they have a key role to play in increasing financing to the water sector across the world. If you'd like more information, a link to the coalition website should be available in the chat bar. And of course, we are honored to co-organize this webinar with the Nature Conservancy, globally recognized for its expertise in implementing NBS to protect ecosystems and to strengthen water security. Their Nature for Water program and initiatives like the Water Funds make them a key player in combining conservation with financial innovation. We actually published together in 2022 a how-to guide to develop watershed investment programs with nature-based solutions. This guide is still available online, and I think it is still perfectly relevant in my opinion. So thank you all for joining us, and I wish you a very fruitful webinar.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are calling in from. My name is Naomi Noël. I am a Senior Partnership Associate for Water and Resilience at the Nature Conservancy. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar to explore the role public development banks can play in financing nature-based solutions for water security that TNC is very happy to co-host with the Water Finance Coalition. This topic of how to leverage finance to support nature-based solutions for water security is really core to the work that we're doing at the Nature Conservancy to support the adoption of nature-based solutions at scale. We are seeing a growing movement to implement large-scale NBS or hybrid investments, as these solutions are increasingly seen as cost-effective strategies that can generate significant co-benefits and thus help address the intertwined climate change, water, and biodiversity crises. However, up to this point, the level of investment in these solutions has remained low. And at the Nature Conservancy, we believe that public development banks have a critical role to play to accelerate this movement. And we have very active partnerships with several of them to support their efforts to mainstream NBS in their investment portfolio by providing tools, training, and technical assistance. So we are really delighted to be joining forces today with the Water Finance Coalition to co-convene this discussion today. And thank you again for joining us in such numbers, and I hope you enjoy the webinar.
Thank you so much. We'll go now to the keynote speech, so that will be given by Martha Baxter. Martha is a policy advisor at the OECD Environment Directorate, where she worked with the Global Commission on the Economics of Water. She has extensive experience in regulatory governance and performance assessment, particularly in water regulation across multiple countries. Thank you very much, Martha, for joining. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Laurent. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be with you today. I'm just going to share my screen with you and we can get going. I hope everyone can see these slides. So first of all, thank you to the Water Finance Coalition and the Nature Conservancy for the invitation to speak this morning. I'm going to take the next 20 minutes or so to set the scene for today's discussion. I will be sharing with you Elizabeth, I'm having some problems going through my slides. So if you are able to take over and go through my slides, then let's do it like that. I'll continue talking. So I will be sharing the findings from the Global Commission on the Economics of Water, and talking through some of the latest scientific assessments we have on water security before turning to issues around water finance. The Global Commission on the Economics of Water was set up by the government of the Netherlands as an independent commission with the mission to redefine the way we value and govern water. It was made up of a diverse group of policymakers and researchers in fields that bring new perspectives to water economics. And the commission was led by 4 co-chairs, you can see on the screen: Mariana Mazzucato, professor at UCL, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the Director General of the World Trade Organization, renowned climate scientist Johan Rockström, and Tharman Shanmugaratnam, the President of Singapore. And I must stress this was an independent commission. As a member of the OECD Secretariat, I'm not a representative of the Global Commission, but I was in a team that was set up by the OECD to support this commission. So I'm very happy to convey the messages from its final report that it delivered in October last year. And one of the main messages is that when we think about water, we need to think about the whole hydrological cycle. The current approaches to managing water tend to deal with just one part of the hydrological cycle, namely the blue water that we can see in our rivers, in lakes, in reservoirs, but we largely overlook the green water part of the cycle. The green water is the water that is held as moisture in soil and plants and released as water vapor into the air, travels through the atmosphere, condenses to form clouds, and then falls as rain. And the latest scientific assessments done for the Global Commission show us that nearly half of the rain, 45%, that falls on land is generated from the land, from this green water held in plants and soils. And this means that these green water flows are just as critical as water evaporating from oceans for sustaining precipitation, which is, of course, the source of all our fresh water. And the Global Commission raises the alarm bit that for the first time in history, human actions are destabilizing the water cycle, and this is putting water supplies at risk. In our current thinking, we too often assume stable patterns of water supply year after year, but this is no longer true. And 2 things are pushing the water cycle out of balance and shifting rainfall patterns. The first is global warming, and the second is land use change. So on global warming, increasing temperatures are supercharging the hydrological cycle, adding more energy into the system. More water is evaporating to be held in the atmosphere, and this is resulting in more extreme events such as floods and droughts. Second, land use changes, particularly deforestation, particularly wetland loss, can disrupt this process of land-to-land rainfall generation that I just spoke about. And this is increasing uncertainty in the year-to-year supply of stable precipitation. And this feedback between land cover and rainfall generation is a really critical yet underappreciated component of the global hydrological cycle. So while the Global Commission's report is ostensibly about water, in many ways, it is a report about land, how we use land, how we manage land, and how this has an impact on our water security. And one of its most striking findings, if we go to the next slide, is just how interconnected we are globally via these atmospheric moisture flows. And the latest modeling reveals land-to-land moisture connections that can be seen across oceans and continents. Elizabeth, if we can move to the next slide, I can show, yeah, perfect, thank you. So you can see these connections that go across oceans, across continents, connecting evaporation happening in West African countries to rainfall in South American countries and North American countries to European countries. And this is what this map is showing. This is what you can see here. This is tracking the moisture flows from where they originate over land to where the water falls as precipitation over land. But why does this matter? What this means is that land use change in one country can affect rainfall patterns in another country, downwind, sometimes thousands of miles away. So managing water as a resource is much more than a local matter. We need to start thinking about and governing the hydrological cycle as a global common good. If we move to the next slide, it almost goes without saying that water is materially important for the economy. The Commission found that nearly 3 billion people and 55% of the world's food production are now in areas where total water storage is projected to decline. So it's clear that disruption to the water cycle can have major global economic impacts. The combined effects of changing precipitation, rising temperatures, together with declining total water storage and lack of access to clean water, could see GDP in high-income countries shrink by 8% by 2050 and between 10 to 15% in low-income countries. So, given what the latest science is showing us and what these economic models are projecting, the Global Commission offers 5 missions as pathways towards a safe and just water future. Today, I want to talk through the first 2 missions in more detail, as these 2 are intimately related to how we manage land and therefore relevant when we're thinking about nature-based solutions to water security. Essentially, we need to manage land in ways which do not damage its hydrological functioning, so its capacity to support these green water flows. This is critical to preserving this terrestrial moisture recycling that I just talked about, and with it nearly half the precipitation that falls on land. I know the focus of today's webinar is on water security, but this isn't just about water security. A stable supply of moisture in soils is crucial to the land-based ecosystems that absorb up to 30% of the carbon dioxide emitted from fossil fuels. So keeping moisture in soils is also essential to climate change mitigation, to biodiversity. So these are really interlinked challenges. Okay, on to the missions. The first mission is to launch a new revolution in food systems. And part of this mission talks about improving water productivity in agriculture, as we know that agriculture accounts for 70% of freshwater withdrawals globally. But it's also a call to accelerate the shift towards regenerative agriculture, and it sets a goal to have 50% of cropland globally under regenerative agriculture by 2050, compared to the 15% that we have today. Why does this matter for water security? We know that the overexploitation of soils by conventional agriculture jeopardizes soils' capacity to retain green water between rainfalls, between irrigations, and this accelerates the global hydrological cycle and also amplifies climatic drought and intense rainfall. Regenerative agriculture, on the other hand, promotes better soil health. So healthy soils mean improved water infiltration, retention, storage. It's slowing down that passage of water. So this is about farming practices that keep moisture in the soil, and this can include cover cropping, intercropping, mulching, agroforestry practices, essentially storing organic carbon, organic matter in the soil to enhance its water holding capacity. The second mission that's about land is the mission to conserve and restore the natural habitats that are critical to protecting green water. So we can go on to the next slide. Most water-scarce basins and a significant share of the lands which contribute to green water transfers from one place to another are in places where nature is already degraded. So these are the areas that need to be prioritized for conservation and restoration. Some of these forests and wetlands are sources of rain at regional scales. This goes back to that point that land management decisions in one place can affect rainfall patterns in another place far away. And this means that water needs to be managed from the local to the global scales. The Commission restates the UN Global Biodiversity Framework targets to conserve 30% of forest and inland water ecosystems and restore at least 30% of degraded forest and inland water ecosystems globally by 2030. We know that forests and wetlands, particularly peatlands, are critical for green water conservation. And this green water dimension is in addition to all the blue water services or benefits that we're perhaps already more familiar with. We know that protecting ecosystems in catchment areas prevents the pollution of water sources, reduces erosion, prevents flooding, and so helps to deliver cleaner water more efficiently, more reliably. And this can be much more cost effective than treating water downstream. So thinking about green water could become a key element when thinking about nature-based solutions. So if we are to achieve these and the other missions for water security, we need to rethink the way we finance water. And we can go to the next slide, please. The Commission talks about the critical enablers for achieving the water missions, and finance alongside the right partnerships and governance and supported by robust data is one of these critical enablers. Next slide, please. We often hear about the financing gap for water. Laurent mentioned it in the introduction. Achieving SDG 6 alone will require around $500 billion per year in additional investments in low and middle income countries. But SDG 6 is just one part of the water security story. Even greater investments are needed to stabilize the water cycle by conserving blue and green water and scaling up innovations for more efficient water use across the whole economy. Yet water as a sector and water efficiency across the economy are severely underfunded. Public investment in water infrastructure has often been a low priority for many governments. Water attracts very little private investment, especially in low and middle income countries. We're talking 1 to 2% from private finance, perhaps reaching 9% in some emerging markets. And nature-based solutions are one of those areas that has found it particularly difficult to attract private finance. But it's not just about the quantity of finance needed, it's about the quality and the direction of that finance, which is why the Commission talks about shaping finance for a just and sustainable water future. Markets, including financial ones, can be shaped to direct financial flows towards stabilizing the hydrological cycle and away from further destabilizing it. There are some more technical areas which can help progress in this direction. First, we need to value blue and green water as natural capital. Water is a critical resource. It provides valuable services for economies, for our societies. So factoring in the contribution of ecosystems to green water stocks and flows can strengthen the economic case for protecting forests and other natural ecosystems. Second, we need to get discount rates right. And the discount rates used to assess investments in water infrastructure and ecosystem preservation should take into account their long-term social, economic, and environmental benefits. But on a broader strategic level, there's an important role for the state to direct finance towards investments that stabilize the water cycle. Projects in the water space typically have long development phases, inherent uncertainty, which requires a unique balance of risk and reward. So achieving water missions requires patient, long-term directed finance. And here's where the role of public development banks comes in. These institutions are well suited to provide that catalytic finance needed to unlock private finance, including this patient, long-term finance for water. As I mentioned, we know that nature-based solutions are one of those areas where it's been difficult to attract private finance, so there could be a strong role here for public development banks. And considering the green water dimension could even be the new frontier for PDBs. I want to pause here to stress 2 points in relation to the role of public development banks. First, achieving symbiotic partnerships that combine public and private actors will mean transitioning from merely de-risking private finance to considering how risks and rewards are shared among stakeholders in a just way. If public finance's role is conceived very narrowly as essentially de-risking private investment, it could lead to an unjust allocation of capital because it can increase public debt while securing private benefits. Second, the Commission encourages evolving from a project-based approach to a programmatic portfolio-based approach and including conditionalities in financing contracts to shape markets so that they are aligned with national goals around water. So national public development banks alongside regional banks, multilateral development banks should align their efforts around these shared national regional water challenges. And one of the ideas that the Commission puts forward is that of just water partnerships involving development finance institutions, national authorities, and other actors to really build capacity and mobilize investments for low and middle income countries. These partnerships could aim to strengthen the pipeline of water projects to mobilize investments and make bolder use of the menu of instruments available to catalyze private investments. So things like first loss guarantees, concessional finance, co-investment arrangements. If we move to the last slide, the Global Commission has now completed its 2-year mandate, and so it invites others to take up the baton. And this idea of just water partnerships is one of those areas where more work is required to characterize them. So I will leave you with that question to think on: what would the contours of a just water partnership look like, and how could it be used to support nature-based solutions for water security? Thank you again to the Water Finance Coalition and the Nature Convergency. I invite you all to read the report. You just had the QR code on the screen, and I think the link is being shared with you. And I wish everyone a very interesting panel discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martha, for this inspiring keynote speech that sheds a new light on the importance of nature-based solutions and how public development banks could foster the development of such solutions for the hydrological cycle. We'll move directly to our panel discussion, starting with Thomas Curtis. Thomas is a Senior Engagement Manager at the Nature for Water facility. He specialized in nature-based solutions for water security. He has over 15 years of experience in project and development finance and helps local partners design watershed investment programs. Thomas, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you for the invitation. I'd like to discuss about how collective action can support the uptake of nature-based solutions at scale, as well as key principles to guarantee the long-term success of NBS programs and the role that public development banks can play in that. So first, let me start by quickly touching on key concepts. When we talk about nature-based solutions for water security, we are really talking about how to leverage the power of nature to protect people and safeguard a stable and biodiverse future. For water security, that means providing acceptable quantity and quality of water. And really, there is strong evidence that all of the nature-based solutions that you can see on the right-hand screen, that can be native revegetation protection of standing ecosystems, building artificial wetlands, or promoting agricultural best management practices. There is strong evidence that these nature-based solutions are efficient, especially for water quality and for flood management. For water quantity, results are more context dependent, but the key takeaway message here is that NBS have a key role to play in supporting adaptation to climate change and also mitigation. Now, I'd like to introduce you to a concept called Watershed Investment Program, and really the terminology is not important. It refers to a collective action initiative that leverages common challenges and a common vision from local stakeholders to support the implementation of nature-based solutions at scale. It's about how downstream water users can organize efficient governance to protect upstream ecosystems and how to incentivize upstream communities that live there and are really the custodians of ecosystems and land to protect and restore them. Watershed investment programs typically aim to deliver various different water security challenges, can be quality, flooding, etc. But it also targets other benefits such as biodiversity, carbon, or livelihoods. WIPs are very powerful to support the uptake of nature-based solutions at scale, but this is a challenging process at times. And a number of key questions must be addressed for NBS projects to be properly designed and sustainable over time. Questions such as where and what to implement, how to motivate and sustain funding, how to quantify benefits, how to incentivize and manage co-investment, how to build capacity and ensure local ownership, what is an appropriate program and governance structure, how to manage cash flows, and how to make sure of operating and maintenance costs. All of those questions and much more are key for the long-term success of nature-based solution programs. And that's really the role of the Nature for Water facility, is to support local stakeholders in addressing those questions. So we've seen that public development banks invest roughly $50 billion per year in the water and sanitation sector, but only a fraction of that go to nature-based solutions, really. And the key message here I want to stress is that WIP are effective mechanisms to channel these investments towards nature. WIPs are efficient mechanisms because they offer strong governance, well thought out strategies, and also structures that can efficiently execute on budgets. And that's why it's very important to put and foster the implementation of watershed investment programs so that sufficient funding can be implemented to reach scale. However, we recognize that there are a number of hurdles when it comes to integrated nature-based solutions into PDB projects, Public Development Bank projects. And I have listed here a number of commonly cited barriers, such as, for example, ability to influence project developers, political frameworks, uncertainties regarding efficiency of nature-based solutions, technical expertise, and so on. And that's why I would like to share some key principles for the successful development of nature-based programs, and also how public development banks can play a role in achieving success. So the first one is that really nature-based solution projects need enabling legal frameworks and national strategies. And I appreciate the diversity of public development banks, and not all of this is going to be relevant to all of the different public development banks, but when possible, really supporting the adoption of a coherent legal framework and national strategies that really include coherently nature-based solutions is of paramount importance. And if there is just one message I'd like to pass is the importance of that, the enabling conditions for projects to be established. Now, beyond that, there are other very important things. The first one is that stakeholder engagement process for nature-based solution projects can be long and can be complex. So early planning is really essential. Also, successful nature-based solutions projects rely on highly committed and driven local champions. So PDBs here can support by raising awareness on the relevance of nature-based solutions and encourage their partners to consider them at the beginning of the project cycle. And beginning here is very important. Another point I'd like to make is that there is a need to develop the right science and socioeconomic studies to support decision-making and adoption. We see too often very detailed studies, very interesting studies, but they do not answer the key questions of local stakeholders on why it matters and how it can be useful to tackle their own challenges. And if we want to drive change, we need to answer local questions, and we need to be efficient in supporting decision-making. So here, a role for PDBs is supporting the production of evidence on the efficiency of nature-based solutions and disseminating knowledge so that project developers are aware and willing to adopt nature-based solutions. On to a crucial point, and that's regarding the role of local communities. Local communities are custodians of the land and ecosystems. They are a crucial implementation NBS delivery partner. They must be involved in the projects and participate to co-designing them. So when supporting nature-based solution projects, PDBs must make sure that on top of water security, carbon, biodiversity considerations, NBS projects do include livelihoods considerations, because in most countries, really, environmental protection or restoration is about rural development, and that's really key for long-term success. And the final point I'd like to make is about funding. Typically, NBS projects rely first on public funding, on grants, on philanthropy, before turning to more sophisticated market mechanisms such as payment for ecosystem services or environmental markets. So as much as we'd like to see innovative finance or complex structures relying on cash flow, etc., the reality of things is that to kick projects, there needs to be public funding, grants, or philanthropy, because the private sector takes a longer time to be convinced and to come on board. So I'd really like to encourage considering providing bridge financing and PDBs to be an early financier to support proof of concept while private funds are mobilized. Now, quickly, I'd like to introduce you to what Nature for Water does and how we worked to bridge the NBS gap. We do so first by providing technical support to local partners in designing nature-based solution programs. And we do so by either supporting them through a pro bono basis. So we issue regular call for proposals, and there is one upcoming in March where we support pro bono projects to establish a vision, being pre-feasibility or feasibility or even design, and implementation. We also do that on a fee-based through fee-based partnerships. So that's the first point, providing technical support for program design. We also support the implementation of nature-based solutions. So we do so through, again, technical assistance to build the tools and processes that are necessary to implement nature-based solutions at scale. We also give grants for the implementation of pilot projects, and that's what we call GoFund, Ground Outcomes Fund. And last, we strongly believe in the power of knowledge, so we make available through open source tools and processes everything that we feel is required to inspire the water sector and other local stakeholders in considering nature-based solutions in their projects. We have made available in the resource section a lot of different things that you can go and check out to support your journey in considering nature-based solutions in your projects. And I'd like to conclude by encouraging you to go to the Nature for Water websites, where you'll see a lot of different examples of successful watershed investment programs all over the world. And that's very inspiring and interesting to see different way governance can be organized to support the upscale of nature-based solutions. So with that, I'll stop. I hope it was interesting. I'm very much looking forward to the discussion. And please do not hesitate to reach out directly to me with any questions or queries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for the interesting presentation and the guidance as to how public development banks should involve more into nature-based solutions. Next in our panel, we'll have Mr. Guoping Zhang. He is a Principal Investment Operations Specialist at the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB. And he's been leading efforts to align water sector lending with climate and nature-based solutions. He has over 2 decades of experience and has worked extensively on water security and resilience across Asia, Europe, and Africa. Guoping, it's your turn. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Laurent, and good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be able to join this distinguished panel to discuss the NBS nature-based solutions for water security. And also, I would like to thank the organizer for this webinar, so that I'm able to be part of this group for discussion. As a water resources professional, having been worked with a couple of MDBs across different regions, I really appreciate for the understanding of water and nature and climate are intrinsically interlinked and needed to be addressed as a whole to ensure water and nature as one integral. Taking a few minutes, I'd like to share with you a little bit about the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB's approach to water security, with keen interest in applying nature-based solutions, all as a whole. That's taken nature as a part of the infrastructure for our development. Yes, thank you for the next slides. Now, AIIB is a new and a growing multilateral development bank. This year, actually in 2025, it will turn to 10 years of age. So we will celebrate its 10 years anniversary and to present how we have been doing in the past from all sectors, including water sector. Our mission is to finance the infrastructure for tomorrow, which means for enabling clients to build the green infrastructure with sustainability, innovation, and connectivity for all our members. We operate with 4 thematic priorities: invest in green infrastructure, which actually encompasses the the nature and, of course, the nature-based solutions. And we mobilize private capitals, and we promote connectivity and regional cooperation and develop technology-enabled infrastructure. If we talk about technology-enabled infrastructure, and we would also see that nature-based solutions is part of technology-enabled solutions. Actually, even though the nature-based solutions is nothing new, our human, if looking back our human history, and probably 100 years or 1,000 years ago, that our ancestors have already applied nature-based solutions for protecting our human beings. Next slides, please. So now I'd like to spend a few minutes to talk about our action, the AIB's action to invest in green infrastructure for water and nature. So water security is meant for access to enough safe water at affordable cost for clean, healthy, and productive life. And also means meant for protection from water-related disasters and risks. We talk about physical risks and economic risks. I don't talk about the political at this context for urban and rural people. And also meant for sufficiency in terms of quantity and quality of water for food, energy, and economy and environment. Now, AIB has a water sector strategy, and water sector is one pillar of the bank's infrastructure investment portfolio for green and sustainable development. To achieve water secure for all, AIB applies the water sector strategy focusing on 3 areas you can see from these slides. We talk about the water services, integrated resources management, and water resilience. Now you can clearly see that the MBS is one of the strategic focal area for water infrastructure investments. And MBS is not only seen as pro-nature approach, but also an innovative technology in many sense, although the MBS was applied ancient times of the human history, as I said before. Please, next slides. And AIB has been joining the force of the global communities to find the harmony between the economic growth and the nature and environment integrity. AIB is active at various global stages, for instance, the Nature and the Climate COPs, to voice the importance of nature and call for actions. At Climate COP26, MDBs jointly stated, we, the MDBs, have mainstreamed environmental sustainability considerations, including nature, into our policies and operations through the implementation of our environment and social policies, standards, and procedures. We reiterate our commitment to continue assisting our clients to avoid, minimize, and manage environmental and social risks and impacts of their operations. The MDBs, including us, are tackling the drivers of nature loss by fostering and making nature positive investments. We look for opportunities to incorporate the use of these tools into our project and the country-level decision-making as relevant. To do such, we need to better understand of nature or nature-based solutions and its benefits. You can see the right-hand side of our approach to NBS infrastructure development. First of all, we need to have a better understanding of nature-based solutions. Actually, one of our panel, the fellow panelists just explained very well, Thomas, what the nature-based solutions is and are, and what are tools, how we're going to do it. In 2023, our bank has published the year flagship report, the first ever dedicated to the nature as infrastructure. This report provides an analytical underpinning for our thinking of on nature and biodiversity. As a new century infrastructure investment bank, we are open-minded and honest about the risks of traditional man-made infrastructure, which very often we call it a grey infrastructure, that could impact on nature and ecosystems. And we look at the nature system by a revisit to explore how nature itself can deliver infrastructure services, build the case for integrating nature-based solutions into the grey infrastructure, and go beyond minimizing and mitigating impacts by enabling nature-positive investments. And nature matters to us in a special way because our multilateral mission. Nature and biodiversity issues, just like a climate, transverse national boundaries. AIIB can lead from the front, bringing together our 110 members to develop joint approaches for tackling this crisis together. And we also need to take the Nexus approach, integrate water, nature, and climate as a whole. No one can really separate this nature, water, and climate in the face of the compounding crisis. IPCC and Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services both view the nature-based solutions as an integral to the interlinked issues of biodiversity, human health, and tackling climate change. The intervening to protect and restore nature or modified system for the purpose of enhancing biodiversity can help solve the broader problems linking climate change and food and water security and insecurity. The next decade will be decisive for halting biodiversity loss and tackling climate change with the nature-based solutions, hence also water security. Finding new ways to finance nature-based solutions is vital for combating climate change and restoring biodiversity. NBS are chronically underfunded. They currently receive less than 1/3 of what will be needed by 2030 in order to meet climate biodiversity and land degradation goals. Innovative financing mechanisms such as green bonds, blended financing, including public and private finance, and impact investing are increasingly being used to mobilize capital. So the private capital mobilization is also key. As we understand, the public fund is always limited. And we also heard from our keynotes and also keynote speaker and other panelists talking about the de-risking. But however, the public development banks, including MDBs, are helping leverage the de-risk incentives to mobilize private capitals. Now, of course, we also need technical assistance from various sources of funding to support the knowledge development and also capacity building. Next slides, please. Again, I show a couple of cases, how AIIB is practicing NBS by working together with the clients and project designs. Now, one of the cases that we can talk about, which is we use the public funds to help the clients to develop integrated marine and ecosystem management projects. Now, this is the typical project that we can apply very widely, the NBS, and we try to help our clients to understand the importance of the NBS, which can strengthen the sea defense systems for the coastal communities. And also the project is to integrate green infrastructure to improve water security, building ecological friendly the sea defense infrastructure to protect community, people, and the environment, and nature-based solutions or the nature as infrastructure such as use of floodplains, natural wetlands, and these are going to be applied to enhance sustainability and also to increase the multiple co-benefits: the climate adaptation and resilience, improved ecosystem services, and biodiversity protection. And we also have a number of other cases that we can mobilize the private capital. For instance, one of this is Nature Finance Accelerator Program that we work with the commercial local banks and to finance the projects for water management, but at the same time to use the funds to apply nature-based solutions to increase the water security. And this, as AIB, is really playing a critical role, not just only providing the funding, but in the same time to enabling the private sector participation as providing de-risking incentive. So we have been doing quite a lot in recent years. Enabling the clients' policies and regulations and their capacity to work on the nature-based solutions. So, given the time, I would like to stop here. I'm happy to join to talk a little bit more later on if there's Q&A. Questions to me and also the interactions among our panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Guoping. Very interesting to see how AIB is integrating nature as a key feature of its infrastructure agenda. Next, we'll have Marieke van Noot. She's a program director at Blue Deal. She's a water professional dedicated to strengthening public water organization in East Africa and Asia mainly. And she fosters partnerships between WaterNet, co-funders, and local stakeholders to drive sustainable water solutions. Marieke, please.
Thank you, Laurent, and hi to everyone. In the next minutes, I will dive into the importance of involving local regional water authorities in this partnership approach. Previous speakers already mentioned to really work on nature-based solutions for water security. Partnerships are needed with many, for many reasons, also really for financial reasons, de-risking, and water authorities have a role to play. I myself work at the Dutch water authorities. We have 21 water authorities in the Netherlands. And I will also explain a little bit how nature-based solutions implementation is actually working quite well in the Netherlands at the end. But first, let me go to the Blue Deal program, which is the international program of the Dutch water authorities. We build capacity of water authorities in 15 countries with long-term partnerships. And we do this on all kinds of topics that are related to increasing the performance of these water authorities. But more and more, implementing nature-based solutions become part of this task. And the reasons are clear, I think, from the previous speakers. This is really more and more needed. And I would like to give some examples of how the water authorities should be involved in this and why. Because if you have a champion, as in the water authority, the nature-based solutions will be much more effective. So if we go to the next slide, one clear example Thomas already referred to. Of course, when we implement watershed investment programs, nature-based solution programs, it needs to be science-based, but often in the context where we work and you all work, the science is not yet there, and there are sometimes not really sophisticated basin management plans available, but the local authorities, they know the water system. And these are just some examples. In Ethiopia, there is no paper plan, but if the water authority committed staff walk around, they know where the biggest problems are. They know the health of the river, for example, in Kenya, in one of the pictures. So they need to be involved just for this reason, very simple, very technical reason. But if we go to the next slide, Thomas also mentioned the importance of really stakeholder engagement from the start. And again, water authorities, they know their stakeholders. They know the people who really know the water system and how to build commitment, and also how to really engage the private sector in their catchments. But also they know the links to the ministries, to the decision makers, to the other authorities that need to be involved. So again, many examples where we see that water authorities really can play this role. And sometimes they need a little bit support for this capacity building, as Guo Ping already mentioned, but this is quite key. And then more importantly, if we go to the next slide, if we do nature-based solutions, Thomas also said it may take some time before you see the benefits. You need proper monitoring of your water system to really make this work, to be able to adjust the watershed investment program. And this is crucial. This is the clear role of a water authority. And on the left picture in Kenya, you see that the water authority needs sometimes a bit of help of making the best out of their monitoring system. So very technical reasons to involve the water authority, but also the leadership of the water authority, but also of the water utilities is key in this partnership. And we also really see that this is clarity and security that investors need, a proper functioning local institution. If we go to the next slide, because watershed investment programs work quite well in the context where we work with our Blue Deal program, but that sometimes is also because there is no proper tax system for the water authority to really cover their costs and to undertake infrastructure investments, preferably green investments. If I go back to the Netherlands, we are in the privileged situation that the Dutch water authorities can raise taxes already for a long time that really cover 95% of all the water management costs. This is an ideal situation. A second point for the Netherlands is that the water authorities have access to very, very easy, properly conditioned loans from the NWB Bank. That's the Netherlands Water Authority Bank, established in the 1950s by the Dutch water authorities. So also for larger investments, including nature-based solutions, for example, related to flood protection, there is easy access to CAPEX. And that's maybe wishful thinking that this will be a solution on the short term for many countries where we work with the Blue Deal program and where you all work. So the watershed investment program approach and really mobilizing the private sector at a catchment scale is really a good, maybe intermediate solution. And we are happy to help supporting that by strengthening the role of the water authority in this approach. That's it from my side. As Guo Ping, as the previous speakers, happy to reach out anytime in the panel, but also after this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marik. Very nice to see the activity and the actions of the Dutch water authorities. We'll go through to Aude Viten. Aude is the Deputy Managing Director of the Adour-Garonne French Water Agency. She is an expert in water management, energy, risk mitigation, and she has led regional water governance initiatives, managed the Green Algae Plan, and coordinated flood monitoring and mitigation strategies in France. Please, Aude, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Laurent. Hi, everybody. Very glad to be with you. Some words about how the agency of Adour-Garonne developed an assertive strategy to enforce the use of nature-based solutions in our basin. First, a few words about the way water organization, next slide please, is implemented in France. Can you, I don't see the next slide, Elizabeth, can you just show the next one with the map of France? There we go, thank you very much. The originality of the French organization is that it's in the scale of river basin. Here you see the 6 water agencies in France, and we are at the western south of France, the Adour-Garonne basin, which represents a quarter of the French territory. And our system is based on redistribution, because we can collect taxes on different water users, farmers, industries, municipalities, and then we redistribute these taxes in form of direct subsidies who can finance water resources projects, including NBS. So we have this huge asset that we have financial independency, because water pays for water in France. Our mission is to promote solutions, concrete solutions, to adapt to climate change, which is a huge issue in our basin, and especially in Adour-Garonne, which is particularly exposed to this risk, mainly water scarcity, but also water quality due to lower river flow rates in the future. So next slide, please. We have a democratic governance which helps for the development of NBS, and I will develop that. We have some water parliaments composed of local authorities, but also of users, water users, farmers, industries, and environmental associations, and the representative of French states. And this balance is really an asset to find some compromises about how to share water and how to protect it. In Adour-Garonne, the president of our River Basin Committee decided to implement, to put in place a task force which is dedicated to the development of NBS, with the conviction that this will help us to mitigate the effects of climate change. Here you see the group of 30 people who are dedicated to this task, and it's a 3-year project. First of all, it's the next slide. This group decided to implement 10 pilot sites with a monitoring organization to collect some data. And we tried to focus on different NBAs representing different issues, agricultural ecosystems, mountain environment, coastal environment, forests, cities, of course. Each one of them trying to show what NBS could bring in the adaptive solution of a territory. Next, please. These pilot sites enabled us to describe some proof of concept. For example, here in the department of Aveyron, in the eastern part of our basin, in the region Occitanie, we had 2014 devastating flood, and there have been built a flood expansion area whose the principle is to give more space to the river so that she can have a natural course. And as a result, we could finance the renaturation of 1 kilometer of riverbank, 1.5 hectare of flood expansion zone. And we could notice that it reduced the vulnerability of urban areas because some buildings have been removed, and we return to low to medium flood frequency. This kind of example has been worked by the group as kind of radar graphs. This is the next slide. Here you see on the next slide, please. On the next slide, yes, you see what kind of use has been made of these 10 pilot sites, and this has been presented to our committee, to our basin committee last week, and it has been very well received because the group decided to use the criteria of the IUCN, which are how these NBS can answer a societal challenge of water and climate change. What are the gain for biodiversity and economic and ecosystem functions? Do we have an appropriate governance? Is it technically feasible? Is it economically viable? And is it reproducible? And then we can have a score for each criteria. And at the first site, you can assess the efficiency of the NBS for a kind of context. And this helped us a lot to convince about the interest of this kind of solutions, and to convince some municipalities to integrate them in their strategy, because the water agency doesn't carry on some project itself. It relies on the local stakeholders to carry on this project. As a conclusion, the interest of this work group is to share some knowledge about NBS. Here you have some other technical, economical references that the group collected, aiming at showing how much these NBS solutions are economically more interesting in the main cases than GRI solutions. And the water agencies organized his budget to finance better this NBS. In the next 6 years, we improved our budget, we reinforced our budget of 20%. And in last point, we have decided to implement new kind of contractualization, a new contractualization policy with municipalities, improving cross-cutting approaches in territorial approaches, so that NBS are more naturally integrated in these territorial strategies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aude, and thank you everyone for respecting the timelines. We now have a little bit of time for the Q&A session, which is great news. We have a few interesting questions in the Q&A section of the chat that I will try to translate here and maybe stretch a little bit if you allow me. So I think there is one interesting question regarding the economics of water and of nature-based solutions. Benson is asking, what is the contribution of the water to GDP for countries? And I think it would be interesting to go a little bit further from this question and ask what is the economics of nature-based solutions? What is the rate of return of investing in those solutions compared to gray infrastructure? And what is the economics of green water as you presented, Martha? So if any of you have any insights on those economic aspects of NBS, it would be really interesting. Thank you.
Maybe I can just come in here, Laurent, and thank you for the question. I'm sure other panelists will have something to say on this as well, but just to say that there's obviously sort of limitations to GDP as a measure, and I think a lot of interesting work is being done on about national accounts and natural capital accounting. So it's the work on valuing water as natural capital is still in its early stages, but there are standards that are being developed by several coalitions, such as the Alliance for Water Stewardship, the Capitals Coalition. So there's more work needed to be done to sort of expand our narrow focus on GDP. but specifically on nature-based solutions, I'll leave it to my other colleagues to respond.
Yes, maybe I can jump in quickly on this one as well. Thanks for the question, interesting one. So I think it really depends. It's local, it's context dependent, but as Nature for Water, we've conducted a number of feasibility studies and cost-benefit assessments of nature-based solution programs, trying to monetize and value the benefits in terms of water quality, water quantity, flooding, etc. And we have found that really nature-based solutions do make sense in a lot of different contexts with benefit to cost ratios way over 1 in a lot of different cases. And I encourage you to go to the business case sections of Nature for Water to know more. But the takeaway message is that there is a relevance in terms of making economic sense to invest in nature-based solutions. And the last point I want to make on that is that we shouldn't oppose nature-based solutions to great infrastructure and try to compare necessarily the return on investments. I think nature-based solutions are efficient and are especially interesting when invested in conjunction with great infrastructure. How do they enhance the resilience of great infrastructure? So the question should be how nature-based solutions improve the existing system. Sometimes, of course, if it can be just 100% nature-based solutions, better, in my opinion, but the reality of things is that it's a broader approach. So the real question is, how do we contribute to a higher cost benefit and higher return on investment through nature-based solutions in conjunction with great infrastructure? Thank you.
I may also jump in here to have a small complementarity to what actually Martha and especially Thomas will talk about the CBA, the cost benefit analysis at the project level, because often people say why the NBS was not much uptaken in at the project level is basically how we're going to value the from economic sense. And sometimes if the private sector participation, they talk about the financial returns. So that is really critical for the practitioners to evaluate or to do this cost benefit analysis. That's also based on in one of my slides. I talk about the better understanding of the NBS. We do understand the benefits, cost effectiveness, but at the same time, we also be very clearly understand the complementarity between the green infrastructure. We talk about nature-based solutions and also great infrastructure. And sometimes that it's nothing that we can say that the green infrastructure or say, I mean, not green infrastructure, the nature-based solutions can really replace the great infrastructure. That we often have to make this so clear, and then talk about the cost benefit analysis. That is also we need to come together to have a joint force or collective action to develop the commonly recognized standards, methods, and criteria to do this analysis so that people can accept that is very critical also. Thank you.
I would like to add something about this issue. We try to assess the value of NBS on agriculture, for example, because in Adour-Garonne, this issue is very important for us. We represent 30% of irrigation of France, and we are very exposed to water scarcity. And we noticed that regenerative agriculture has co-benefits in water management. Of course, for water scarcity, good soil management can reduce the use and the need of irrigation, but also can protect water catchment, which is quite a serious issue for us too. And it avoids costs for the community when your water catchment doesn't need to be treated to have a good drinkable quality water. And so we think over the way of recognizing economic to finance and to recognize the use of this kind of soil management good practices with payment for environmental services. Guoping talked about that. In France, water agencies are the first founders for this kind of payment, which goes directly to farmers, and we can justify it because of these avoided costs on drinking water.
Thank you all. If there's no other comments on that specific questions, we have other questions, interesting questions coming in, especially regarding the barriers to implementing NBS. Especially Lydia is asking what would be, to all panelists, I guess, but what would be your main 3 recommendations to convince water infrastructure engineers in a public development bank to choose NBS over conventional methods? So over to you, colleagues, what would be your recommendations?
Can I start by just quickly reiterating that I don't think the question here is really NBS over conventional methods. I'm stressing that because it's in conjunction, and so I think if we start with the thinking that we are going to switch from conventional to NBS, we are setting ourselves up for failure. It's really hard to change mindsets, even in countries that really do need those changes. So that's the starting point for me, is to really try to showcase why investment in nature-based solutions enhance current existing plans. And I think also is trying to prove the operational efficiency. So we've seen that, for example, for water quality, really nature-based solutions are really efficient in reducing treatment costs, for example. So yeah, that would be my take on this, is to have an approach that engineers can understand as well, just not on the concepts and doing it for the greater good of the watershed. It's really operational approach, trying to answer operational issues.
I totally agree with Thomas. It's not just either this or that. It is in conjunction of using both solutions, nature-based solutions and the conventional solutions. Actually, I just share quickly a small experience that I myself had when I led a mega project for post-flood disaster reconstruction and recovery projects. We tried to push through these nature-based solutions when they do the river engineering, that we would like to convince the engineers by not only reinforce the conventional dikes and river training, but at the same time to preserve some of the useful floodplains and also the wetlands, which can also be beneficial for flood protection. And you can imagine the traditional engineer's mindset is very hard to change. But we take the example, for instance, in a new modern urban areas, you see the rivers, you have the traditional dikes and river channels, but at the same time, you see that when the river flows through the urban areas, they see that they use the water to build waterfront parks, and which is also like a Dutch concept of live within nature, or say a space for the river. And that is the exactly concept of how you can apply the nature-based solutions. By talking about this kind of concept, the engineers can start understanding why the nature-based solution can really help the water security by combining the the conventional GRI and the hard physical infrastructure. It's about the dialogues and building the capacity. And I would not say the recommendation would say that it's either MBS or the conventional infrastructure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, maybe if I may add to that, because the question is a good one. In what we see in practice is that the issue is not so much that engineers are not convinced of applying, co-applying green infrastructure, nature-based solutions, but it's more that the governance institutional setting is quite complicated, and that means leading to difficult finance mobilization. And maybe just as on a positive note, on a small scale in our programs, we see that the private sector is really willing to invest, but they need to be sure that there is proper institutional setting. And I think, Thomas, what you suggested, that there needs to be a bridge funding to really mobilize this private appetite, which we really see is there. That should be really a way forward. Thanks.
I would like to add something to these interesting recommendations. I liked very much what Marta said in her introduction, is that we have to be patient and investors have to be patient, because this solution, they work at a long-term scale, and they work at watershed scale. So it would be my other recommendation to the local investor. Try to be sure that the scale of the implementation of these solutions are the right ones.
Great. Thank you very much all for your answers. We ran out of time to answer all the other interesting questions, but we can obviously continue offline. I will give the floor to Carlota Real for the conclusion of that webinar. Carlota is a senior water and sanitation specialist for the CAF, the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean, which is the chair of the Water Finance Coalition. Please, Carlota, if you can give us a few conclusion notes.
Thank you. Thank you all for this great discussion. I'm honored to speak today on behalf of CAF, co-chair of the Water Finance Coalition. Today, we've seen that nature-based solutions are not just an option. They are essential for water security and resilience. The Water Finance Coalition is committed to ensuring that financial mechanisms and governance structure evolve to support nature as a core part of water infrastructure through establishing a network among public development banks to foster mutual awareness and partnerships, investigating the current role of national and local public development banks in the water sector to identify opportunities for incorporating nature-based solutions into their financing strategies. And as we've seen today, disseminating case studies and success stories. So given the limited time I have, I will focus on providing the closing remarks from this comprehensive and insightful webinar. Reflecting on today's interventions and CAF's experience, we have a shared understanding of the main challenges we face in scaling up nature-based solutions. This includes financial challenges due to the lack of precise evaluation methods and risk assessments, limited long-term funding, governance issues based on inadequate regulatory frameworks, technical capabilities, and the broad range of stakeholders involved, building public awareness and acceptance. Despite the challenges, today's panels has provided excellent examples of how institutions across different regions tackle these barriers. First of all, I have to say, improving financial viability. I think Thomas highlighted that watershed investment programs provide a structured way to invest in nature-based solutions, offering benefits like water security, biodiversity, and for sure carbon emission reduction. However, we must improve impact measurement, co-investing, and financial structuring to make them viable. Second, enhancing funding mechanisms. As I said, financing is key. Nature-based solutions projects need to be bankable. So this requires better ecosystem valuation, a blended finance approaches to ensure private sector engagement. Public development banks such as the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, GAF, NWB, and others have shown that nature-based solutions can be integrated into large-scale investments while attracting diverse funding. So they are critical to lowering the risks, providing tailored technical assistance, and creating right conditions for private sector participation, as we've seen in these all cases and examples. So PDBs drive real change by integrating nature-based solutions into financial programs. Third, we have to strengthen governance and planning. And as demonstrated by the Adolgaron Task Force and the Blue Deal, first, basic level planning and empowering local water authorities are crucial for scaling nature-based solutions and in the end, for ensure water security. Finally, I have to say we must not take public approval for granted. There are multiple examples, especially, well, since I know in Latin America, where the lack of public approval has prevented nature-based solutions projects from being developed. So therefore, it is essential to include public awareness and engagement as an integral part of the entire process. And I have to say, as Maria said, having a champion can change everything. I have proof of that. So here, a call for action. The challenge is clear. We must go beyond small projects and drive systemic change. We need more investment, better financial models, and stronger policies that reflect the full value of nature in our economies. And for sure, public development banks have a decisive role in making this happen. So thank you all for your attention, and we look forward to continuing this important work together.
Thank you very much, Carlota. Thank you all participants to this webinar, and thank you to the audience for participating. And we'll close this webinar. Thank you very much. Have a good day.